If you have foot or ankle pain, I'm going to show you the one thing you should have and the 4 exercises you should do on it to fix your foot and ankle pain. I'm talking about old ankle sprains. I'm talking about plantar fasciitis. I'm talking about Achilles tendonitis to help you, especially if you're going to squat. But general foot pain, this is the number one thing I'm going to tell my patients. You have to get this thing. Welcome to Squat Every Day. I'm Dr. John Cybulski. We are talking about foot integrity, foot strength, Achilles pain. This is Reinold. This is crazy good movement, right? We've been talking about sissy squats. We've been talking about quad strain. We've been talking about controlling movement. We've been talking about lengthening and strengthening. This kind of encapsulates what we've been talking about, a lot of the concepts we've been talking about. But more specifically today, let's get into the actual exercises. Again, this is the toe pro. We're going to show you, this is the second exercise. We'll do that in a second. This is the first one that you must do if you have foot or ankle pain. I'm telling you, as a doctor, it's just an easy, like most efficient thing. If you've got these problems, do this. Your pain will go down 50% in the first 2 weeks. The more you work on it, the more it will go away. There are some specific pains, of course, as a doctor, you're going to need to see a doctor about, but like general stuff, if you want to wipe away the vast majority of your problems, I'm saying if you do this stuff, 80% of your problems go away. You got to do it. So get the Toe Pro. Dr. Thomas Machado, I have no affiliation with it. It's just a great piece of equipment. That I recommend to patients. I probably need to get a cut. Dr. Mishad, holler. But this is the first one. We're talking about a calf stretch, but we're talking about toe strengthening. So the Toe Pro is nice and squishy, right? So you can push down into it, but you're going to push down all of your toes. And as you do this, all 3 of your toes, you're going to feel certain toes, certain parts of your foot get weak quicker than others. This is addressing the intrinsic muscles on the bottom of your feet. Feet collapse. People talk about shoes being foot coffins, right? I'm not going to go that far, but I think weak feet is a real problem, especially if you've got foot pain. It's one of those low-hanging fruits. If you got plantar fasciitis, you got Achilles tendonitis, you got old ankle sprains, you need to strengthen up your foot, okay? This is the first one. The second one is going to be a little different. Let's go to the beginning. So you're taking both feet up, removing one, and then you're simply lowering yourself down. You're going to keep your toes and your forefoot pressed down. You'll notice something wonderful happens to the foot. As you press all the way up, that arch rises. So a lot of you talking about collapsed arches, overpronated foots, collapsed midfoots, naviculars falling down, tarsal tunnels, whatever you want to talk about falling down. Pushing up, pushing your toes down will strengthen up the bottom of your foot and help you build an arch. It's going to take time to build an arch, but you can literally build your own arch, okay? So you're going to build your own arch. As you go up, you want to keep the pressure on the toes and then lower yourself down. This is obviously sped up. She's going to go up and lower herself down. She's going to go up and lower herself down. Pretty easy, but let's talk about the lowering of the self down. So one of the things is, we've talked about this before with the patella on squatting, that we do a little tendon bathing. You need your tendons to have a lot of blood flow pumping through them. And so just a stretch doesn't necessarily get that blood flow, but the pumping back and forth, the slow eccentric, is going to help strengthen up specifically this Achilles, okay? It's super important that you keep your toes pressed down. Gosh, if I've said that once, I'm going to say it a million more times. But then go up, and then as you lower, you are slowly lengthening your calves. So it is not necessarily stretching. I know stretching is just kind of a one-time event, people think, but you are actively pulling and prying those calves into a stretched position, okay? So slowly lower it down, keeping the pressure forward onto the forefoot, keeping that press down. I've got some bigger buddies that do this. Don't worry, this cushy pad will last you forever. It's awesome. You got to go get the Toe Pro. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2. Let's talk about the cooler ones. Going from the side, I actually recommend the ones going forward and back, because that starts to mimic stance and gait in squat. And the better stance you have in a squat, the more power you're going to produce. That was what was in the title, right? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's start it up. So you can do two of these. You can do one where the big toe is at the top, or one where the big toe is at the bottom, okay? So this guy, or where is she? This guy, right? And the same thing is going to happen with both exercises. You're still just going to push up and then slowly lower down. But I want to show you on this exercise something pretty interesting. What happens when you push all the way up, okay? So for those of you with pronated feet, you can kind of see, even though she's on a slant and really it should be pushing her leg this way, her Achilles is still bowing out into the arch. So even though she's got an arch support, it doesn't necessarily fix her arch, okay? Something important to know about orthotics: you need to grow your own arches yourself. You need to strengthen up your foot so you can smash it in the ground and create a great foundation for your squat, and also just so that you don't have pain. Okay, so she's going to push up, and I want to show you something magical that happens when she goes up. Okay, let's go down to the bottom and show you what's wrong first. How about that? Okay, so we talked about it bowing this way. It's pushing over. You can see somehow her arch is still falling down this way, right? So everything's kind of pushing over this way. When she goes up, boom. Now this is somehow straight. We've got a good relationship between both of these. Her arch is risen up. She's literally, you can see that she's created an arch like we talked about in the other video. Now that we've captured this ankle mortise joint, so the tibia, fibula, and this heel, right? And the talus between, the talus joint between, this is the horse and saddle joint, right? We've got it in a good position. We want to keep it as we go down, and she does a pretty good job of that. And you can kind of see that. Let's go to the next one. Going all the way. This is a good one to show tibial rotation. Tibial rotation is ill talked about, but here's who am I? Ill talked about. Her tibia is down here. You could also see that her arch has fallen. Her midfoot has fallen, right? She is, of course, on the slant board. I can hear your voices now. Yes, it is pushing her that way. But you can even see structurally she just doesn't have an arch, right? Okay, so, but you'll see, I want to talk to you about tibial rotation. As she goes forward, this is going to roll up this way. Let's see if you can see. I'll put it on slow-mo here. So as she goes up, and she's going to create an arch. She's figuring out how to transfer her weight. There we go. Now we're pushing up. Okay, as soon as she does that, you're going to see this start to create a shadow back here. This arch is starting to transfer around. She does have a lot of weight over here, but she's going to be forced to keep that big toe down. You can see the big toe doesn't want to stay down. I want to talk to you about the windlass mechanism. Ooh, let's see if we can get a good vision of it. And it goes all the way up. Okay, let's go back. Let's see if you can see this kind of almost roll forward. So I want you to see the distance between here, the medial malleolus, and the front of her. This is her anterior tib tendon. It actually kind of crosses over the other side onto the arch, but that's the anterior tib. Let's watch it go up. So as she goes up, you'll kind of see this bone shifting forward there, right? Now, it's not just shifting forward, it's looping around the backside. Now, as it loops around the backside, it starts to lift this arch up. So you can see she's starting to have that arch here. It's not great, it's not perfect. This is the action of the windlass mechanism. So there is this pivot point here. When this big toe goes up, somehow this arch also goes up. Windlass mechanism creates the arch. Super important. This is why we keep the big toe down, that press down, even though it's actually passively, eccentrically extending. It will also eccentrically extend and lift that arch up, okay? And she wants to keep it as she goes back down. These are some simple mechanics that you need to know. I could wax poetic about this forever. I'm not going to. But this is how you literally can rebuild your arch. You need to do a lot of repetitions. You need to control those ranges of motion all the way up and all the way down. Think about the guy we had yesterday in the range of strength. Your range of motion is a certain space, right? And I want you to be strong all the way from one end to the other and all the way in between, right? If you can do that, you can control your range of motion like old boy over here, Roy Gold. Give him a follow, right? He controls that range of motion all the way from one side to the other. He's got all the range and he can use it. There's a certain point through here, I could try this, but there's a range of motion where I would fail. So do the same thing with the toe lift-offs. Control your range. Let's start on a joint-to-joint basis before we get to this kind of fun stuff back here, right? On a joint-to-joint basis, learn to control your movement up and control your movement all the way down. Maybe one day we'll all be like Roy. It's gonna take some time. Be patient. Movement has a compounding effect on the body. Stick with it. You can do it. Tune in tomorrow. Take care.